reality is known through reason, kind of a thing of mine. And then meaning comes from making a difference. And on that note, I want to take just a second to sidetrack here and let Abhishek kind of tell us about the volunteer projects that we just finished and what's coming up shortly. So, Abhishek?
Sure. So yesterday we went to the food bank, and we had about yesterday we went to the food bank, and we had roughly like 10 to 11 people. We were sort of separated in a couple sections. We sorted and boxed some goods, and we had some of those backpack buddies programs that you see around the city, sorting of that. And thanks for coming, everyone who came there. And we will be back there as well. Plus, our next project event, volunteer event, is on June 12th. It's at Project Cure. You can sign up using our Facebook links or our meetup links. There's a link on the event description to go to the Project Cure page and sign up. Make sure you sign up there so that they have a good count of the number of volunteers and who's coming in and all that. They have I believe they have a thing for you to sign electronically as well. So that's it. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Okay, we have our usual routine today. I'll start with a couple of songs and our main speaker, and we'll break out into some discussion groups, followed by a Q&A session, and then we'll wrap things up with a final song and some notes. So why don't we get started? Our guest musician today, we want to welcome back Louise. She's an acoustic singer, songwriter, originally from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado Springs. I went to the Air Force Academy, so I've been there. I know what that's about. That's beautiful. She says her style can be described as an indie folk feel with jazz tones. She's always welcome here at Oasis. So everybody help me give a warm welcome to Louise and get a couple of songs in.
Hi everyone, I'm so happy to be back. It's like really nice. I recently moved from Houston to Vancouver, Canada, so
Wow.
we're still like in lockdown up here. There's no going to restaurants, there's no hanging out with people you don't live with outside, so it's nice to see so many new faces for the first time in a while. I really appreciate y'all having me back. It's pretty cool. I thought I'd start with a cover and then an original and see where we go there, but I think a lot of people know this one, so it's probably a good place to start. I'm going to take these off just so I can hear, so if you have something to tell me, just wave at the screen a bunch. All right. Old man, look at my life, I'm a lot like you would. Old man, look at my life, I'm a lot like you would. got to start with some Neil Young, you know. It's a good Sunday when you have Neil Young. All right, and then I'll do one that I wrote. There's a slight chance I've played it on here before, but I think it's evolved since then, so we'll see if you recognize it. She lost her capo, but it was in her lap. Just a story written on the walls of our hallways, and all that they've seen. If only the walls could speak, they might scream. Settle for me now. They said, settle for me now. I want you to feel me. Crush your head between my arms and between my hips, and I'm going home again. What have I done? Well, I told myself not to run away, but run head on. Well, instead I froze. I was stuck to my seat. I could not feel my toes. What have you done? I have forsaken you to think you were the one. Oh, looking back, my bones are shaking too, and I should have run instead of trying to make the best of this. I should have run. Let go of your heart, or you will only be disappointed. And dream from the start, and don't let anyone take it from you. And there you go. There's her
Right.
too.
Thank you, Lua. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our main talk today, another veteran that we've all seen and heard before. Our main talk will be by David Oliverio today. David was a Pentecostal preacher from 1976 to 1989, but we forgave him. He lost his faith in 1990 and began a journey that led him to become a secular humanist activist. His passion is promoting and advancing humanism as an alternative to theistic religion through his YouTube show, The Preaching Humanist, his public speaking, his Saturday's sign holding activism, and of course his presentations like we're going to see today. So David, if you would be so good to take it away. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. It's good to be back with my friends in Houston. Boy, it won't be long. We can all start meeting up in groups again. And this Zoom stuff is okay, but it's just not the same as meeting together in person. So before I get started on this very important topic, you notice I'm sitting down, and normally when I speak, I'm up. So I want to slow it down today, if that's possible. And the topic is vision and passion. So I was going to have my wife tie me down so I wouldn't do this so much, but hey, I can't help it. I'm Italian, right? And I have a lot of vision and passion for the secular movement. So before I get into the topic, I want to make something very clear and comprehensible, that the ideas that I'm presenting today are my takes, my opinions. We are free thinkers, right? We form opinions based on reason, independently of authority. So these are areas that I've learned through my past, and I want to apply what works from the past to build the new. And I can see that in the Houston communities, Oasis community. I like the pattern. I really love what y'all are doing. So what gives me the credibility or the credentials to talk about this topic? So I'm going to take you back briefly, and I'm going to tell a lot of stories today. So we all have a thing called experiential intelligence, right? We gain things through experience. Being almost 64 years old in a couple of months, I've gained some things from the past. I have experience in planting churches. Many of you remember and heard my talks before, former Pentecostal preacher. So I have experience planting 2 churches and helping to start another mega church in the Waco area back in the 70s and 80s. So we learn from the past to take to the new. Also, I want to talk about something else that gives me a little credibility in this. I call it out of the bubble, right? Like the bubble boy in Seinfeld, right? I'm out of my bubble. On my weekend activism, I talk to all kinds of people. My clients, I'm a personal trainer. I go into my clients' homes. We're beginning to resume that, those of us who have been double vaccinated. And through the years, being out of my atheist bubble, right? We all have these little bubbles. You'll learn that we're all alike. I had Christian clients, atheist clients through the years, Republicans, Democrats, Donald Trumpers, Bernie Sanders people. And as you're out of your bubble and you communicate with amiable diplomatic humanism, you find out through experience that we're all very similar. We're all human, right? So now let me take these ideas I've taken and apply them to now. Back in the 70s, I started preaching with my father in his church, Pentecostal church. And that was in the late early 80s, 70s and 80s. I took that concept, the things I learned from his church. I helped a church from Dallas come to Waco, where I'm from, and start a new church. I learned a lot from that big mega church, Pentecostal church, the things that church does very well. You'll hear me talk about that today. Now, I also want to stop and say this before I go any further. This style that I promote, this style that I've learned through the past as a non-believer, without any belief in the supernatural, is not the end all. It's not the only way. We in the secular community have various techniques and methodologies. So this is not for everybody. I talk to fellow atheists that do not like the communities that are church-like. I like that because of my past, but it's not the only way. So if you're watching from a different community around the world, or any people that follow my Facebook talks and so forth, understand that this is my take. But you can take these principles of passion and vision and apply them to your style. Okay, I want to get that straight. So after I left that mega church that I helped establish in the 80s, I started my own first church. New wine, Christian Fellowship back in 1982. Has a nice Pentecostal flavor. We started in a beat up church building in downtown Waco, rat infested, in fact, right? And I took the concepts I learned. I didn't know anything about science or philosophy back then, but I knew that humans like this thing called community. They like music, they like identity, they like potlucks after the service. They like friends. They want value, meaning. I took that concept and I began to have more singers and involvement. I took it from that small church building to our duplex. My first wife and my two little kids at that time were 2, 3, 4 years old. They're in their mid to late 30s now. And I took that concept into where we lived, took out all the furniture, set up chairs, had my piano in there, and I began to see the numbers increase from 20 to 30 to 40 people up to 80 to 100 packed in a duplex. Seriously. But they came for one reason. They didn't just come to hear me preach about the gospel of Jesus, right? They came as a celebration of life. They came because it was a festival of life, right? They came to meet their brothers and sisters in Christ, right? They came for the music. They came for the potluck after every Sunday service. People came. They couldn't wait until Sunday mornings because that's when they saw their like-minded friends. They found identity. They found values and relationships, all the wonderful things that the Oasis Network is providing. I like that. Now, let me take you on years past that, recently, here in the Austin area. Now, I'll tell you little secrets today. I go into mega churches. I go out of my bubble and talk to people. I've been doing this for years. I went recently into one of the mega churches, of course, with my mask. This is after we began to get more vaccinated. And two of the pastors approached me in the lobby. This was during the weekday. We had a nice little talk, and I asked them, I said, guys, are you guys anticipating growth? Are you anticipating this post-COVID-19 era where all human beings, whether you're a believer or non-believer, miss the community? He said, yes, we are building on. We have people that are dying to get back to the community. Now, here's one thing I noticed that these preachers have. They have vision and they have passion. Now, sure, they have the desire to please a God, which most of us don't believe in, right? Sure, they have the passion, vision to spread their message, and they want to please God and not go to that place. They want to go to heaven, right? I understand this. But the question I have for those of us that identify as secular, do we have that passion? Do we have that vision? What are our objectives in our communities? Is it only about fighting the old? The little secret to make change, we take our energies, our passion and vision, not just to fight the old, right? But to build the new. Now, they're unashamed and unabashed. And they were very nice to me, by the way, as I told them what I do. I even told them, hey, guys, there are communities of we who are non-believers, secular communities, that do similar things as you do without belief in the God. And I didn't say the authoritarianism and dogma. I didn't say that. I just said without the God, right? Now, there's another little mega church, or Lord's mega church, that I visited recently. And this was on a Sunday. And actually, this is pre-COVID, just a year and a half or 2 years ago. And I went into the lobby. And I noticed that they have a large sign out that says, to love is human. To love is God, right? Love everybody all the time. Now, we got to give them credit. That's brilliant marketing. Who doesn't want love? These beautiful attributes of love and compassion empathy, sympathy that we have as a social animal. And those that continue to believe in God, of course, my take is they misinterpret these wonderful feelings of community and love, like you folks do as you go to the Houston Food Bank, right? They misinterpret these feelings and they say it's from a God. We say it's being a social animal. We all have it in us, right? We observe the natural world. We see it in other social animals as well. And I notice these people, they're happy. They have greeters. They have music. They have a coffee shop in the church. They have a breakfast taco area. And I was there between two services. And it was just a wonderful community of people. They have mastered this thing called community, right? We can learn from this. They have passion and they have vision. Now, during the week in that particular church, during COVID, they have a drive-through food pantry. They put up signs. During COVID, they said, those of you in the neighborhood, in the community, they're a force for good, right? Come drive through, we'll wear our masks, we will give you food and clothing for those of you who have lost your jobs because of COVID. They have passion and vision. Do we have that passion and vision? Now, in another particular church, I went in pre-COVID, about a year and a half ago, between services. There were probably 800 to 1,000 in the first service, the second service, another 1,000 in the lobby. I walked in, struck up a conversation, being amiable, diplomatic, like I am. And I said, hey, ladies, 3 ladies about my kids' age in their mid-30s. I said, hey, ladies, I'm new here. It's my first time. And we got talking. And I said, let me ask you a couple questions. What attracts you to this big, beautiful building, this church? Now, interesting to hear. They didn't even mention the God thing at all at first. I said, what about you, the first lady? What do you find appealing about this big community? She said, oh, sir. She said, sir. She saw the wrinkles, 8 spots of gray hair. She said, sir, we come because we have our close friends. Our children are best friends. They're off in Sunday school activities. Our husbands are in Sunday school class, Bible study, whatever, men's groups. We find friends. We find community. She said, oh, also we have activities throughout the week. We feel valued here. We have activities for women, men. We have outreach to the community, feeding homeless people. We have home cell groups during the week. They want to reach their community for what they think, of course, is the gospel. There's really not a lot of difference with them and we who are secular and humanists. They want to reach and do good, so do we, minus the supernatural. Now, they clearly told me all the reasons. And they also said, by the way, we have a cool, hip preacher. I said, wow, really? And at that time, I noticed on the big screen TV in the lobby during the first service, there was this young, cool, hip preacher. He had his t-shirt on, his kind of gold chain. He had his spiked hair. And he literally said into the microphone, isn't Jesus cool? And everybody's clapping, right? So she said, we come here because we're accepted, we're valued. And I did make one comment, a question. I said, ladies, I noticed you didn't say one thing. You didn't say anything about God. And the one lady said, oh yeah, he's here too. So I began to tell them, I said, look, I'm a non-believer. I'm not here to debate and argue, but I like this concept, what you're doing for the community. Let me move you on quickly to market days. About 3 or 4 years ago, for the atheist community of Austin, here in Austin, I presented to the board this concept of setting up a table. Tabling is wonderful, by the way, at a particular market days festival in Georgetown, north of Austin. I guess pretty similar to some of your north suburbs like Spring or Woodlands. And they said, yes, we'll give you the money to do it. So I set up a booth and a table, and there are plenty of vendors out there and several Christian groups. So we had the Atheist Community of Austin sign, Secular Humanism, good without belief in God, right? Signs. And we just passed out literature there to just normalize it, talk to people and love on humanity. That's what I like to do going out there. And there's some secrets I learned out there when you table, that most people, whether you identify as a believer in a God or a non-believer, most people actually don't care about deep philosophical debate. They really don't. Now, I know we have our percentage of non-believers that like to argue and debate every little topic. That's fine. And also the believers have their group. But to be honest with you, the majority of people out there, they simply want love. What a concept. And here's one of my favorite signs that I hold up on the weekends, right? To love is human. And this is so simple that I think many people forget where the rubber meets the road. We do have lots of science. We're grounded and rooted in science, no doubt. We have PowerPoints. We have philosophy. We have debates, which is all good. We have critical thinking and skepticism. That's all good. But we also need a good balance in the secular world. We need a little bit of this artsy fartsy stuff, right? This thing we call compassion and love and community for a well-balanced world. And as I noticed the people, whether I'm out on the trails or on city streets here in Austin with signs, or up in Georgetown, setting up a booth at a trade show, that's what most people want. They just simply want to be loved and accepted. Now, Christianity, we may have to swallow our pride and admit this. Christianity has provided the needs of human nature very well. They've done this for 2,000 years. They've mastered the community. They have signs up in these churches I go to. You will find meaning here, happiness and love and identity. Now, I also hold up signs up here in the North Austin area. We recently moved from South Austin up here by the Arboretum, if you're familiar with that part of Austin. And I go up there on Palmer Lane and Metric, street corners on Saturday mornings. And all I'm doing is getting the concept out there of humanism and goodness without God and love is human. And being out there, you meet all kinds of people. Of course, I get the F-bombs and the middle fingers. Had 3 of those last Saturday. And all I'm doing is waving and smiling and loving on people, right? But I had 3 young ladies pull over to the shoulder of the road and roll the window down. And this is very interesting. And they said, sir, we see your signs. What is this humanism? What is this good without a God? What is this thing called? And I walked over to the vehicle. They rolled the window down. And I loved it because they were probably millennials in their 20s. 2 were Black, 1 was white. And I love that, right? We love to see the amalgamation. We're all one species, one race, the human race. I love that. And I said, well, young ladies, thank you. I said, basically, there are many of us that are non-believers. And it's a phrase that I like to think that I've coined through the years of this activism I've done, all kinds, being out of my bubble. And this phrase does not resonate with all atheists. But for me and those that kind of miss this good part of church, and I tell them, actually, there are those of us that identify as non-believers, but we miss the things that you guys have mastered. Obviously, minus the God and the supernatural. And I said, we're similar. In fact, if you took the Christian virtues and principles and you draw a parallel line and compare it with humanist principles, it's almost identical. This whole thing of charity and compassion and getting along with people and so forth, being kind and courteous, this is just human. And when you explain to them that all these beautiful attributes were already in human nature prior to the writing of the Bible and the Quran and the others. But as I explained this to them, They said, "Sir, we're all Christians, but this is fascinating. I didn't know that you had communities like this." And they said, "Thank you for explaining this to me." Now, they didn't get angry. They kind of liked it, right? So that's something that I think that we need to motivate into and build and grow. Take this passion for this. Now, here's something else I used to do 30 to 40 years ago. Back in the Pentecostal churches, when I was a young preacher, we used to go out and plant churches. I was a church planter. I did 2 or 3 of them. We wanted to take this message that we thought benefited society and increased societal health. Now, we know through quantitative data and evidence that actually the more secular societies are healthier. We know that. But that concept of taking what you think is really beneficial to people and communities, right? We went out and raised up leadership in every one of our groups. We didn't just look for the few people that preached in each church. We looked for younger people. We looked for those that had the ability to take on new groups. And we always looked ahead. Now, I'll tell you another little secret, if you want to know. When I drive around Austin, I'm the same person I was 30 to 40 years ago. I had that same passion and vision. I'll come by a big church and see their sign. "We love you, come here," whatever, and all the good they do. And I think to myself, why can't we do that? Why can't we take this whole idea, build and grow? They take their people and they encourage them to go out. In fact, I'm already thinking ahead. I think of a city called San Antonio, the 7th largest city in the country, just south of here, 80 miles. 1.5 million people. There's a few small secular communities. I have friends there. Wonderful people. They do wonderful things. But could we take this concept? Could we take this vision and passion of building the new rather than just fighting the old, right? And go out and build more communities similar to the old, the parts that work. I even think about cities like Corpus Christi, Fort Worth, Dallas, Waco. I'm able to say Waco because I'm from there, right? The Valley, South Texas Valley, right, Will? El Paso. Not long ago, I had a man approach me with my signs out on the weekend, fellow non-believer from Victoria, Texas, visiting Austin. I think his girlfriend lives up here. He was probably in his mid-late 20s. He said, "Sir, I was raised religious. I no longer can believe, but there's no one like me that I know of in Victoria, Texas. There's no community. There's no group." And he did say this. And I really miss that group concept that church had of all the good things they do. I wish we had something here similar to that. So I meet people like that very often. And I also meet fellow non-believers who are not interested. And I've had fellow atheists come up to me and say, "Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for normalizing this for all of us. Thank you for putting a amiable, friendly face on non-belief. But I'm really not interested in the church type community for non-believers." And I always say, that's fine. That's okay. It's not for everybody. But my experiential intelligence is telling me I'm out of my bubble, folks. And I'm telling you, there are people out there that have no idea about Oasis. They have no idea that there are groups out there that can meet the needs because they're looking for something. They're looking for something to replace what they once left. And I would admonish leadership, members, board members throughout all these secular communities. Think about it. Think about what kind of objectives you had. What's your vision? Do you want to grow? Do you want to share the love of humanity to all as non-believers? But it's going to take vision and passion. In fact, I used to preach from the book of Proverbs when I was a young preacher. Without vision, people perish, right? if you don't have vision and passion, and that's just a good humanistic phrase, right? In any business, anything you want to build, you got to believe that what you have will benefit others. And I'm telling you, they're out there and they're looking for something. Now, I used to tell my Baptist and Church of Christ young preacher friends in Waco back in the 70s and 80s. We were all preacher kids. We all became preachers. And I would tell them, hey, said, guys, I know you love Jesus. I know you're born again and saved. Christian jargon, right? And I said, but you need the Holy Ghost. You need some oomph. You need some passion and vision like we Pentecostals have. And I said, you need a good dose of the Holy Ghost, right? So I'm certainly not here to put a dose of the Holy Ghost in you, obviously. I'm here to encourage you, especially those in the Oasis Network, that your system, I like. And there are many people out there that miss that system. And let's have some of this vision and passion, especially knowing that we're slowly getting back to more normalcy, more vaccinations, and I understand that you're ready to start meeting up pretty soon. And I'm looking forward to that too. But just remember that this is a beautiful time to start refocusing your vision and passion to reach people that do miss this. They're longing for it and they're looking for what you have. Okay, so thank you so much. I hope I didn't go too long. Usually I have my wife through Tom and me. She's down at the gym right now. She hears me yak all the time. So I'm finished. And yeah, no altar call. Don't worry about that, folks. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, David. All right. Okay, I guess it's time to move to the breakout rooms, Abhishek.
Yes, I guess we can go to break, and the people on Facebook and so
welcome back, everybody. If you have any questions you want to post to the chat room, I'll be glad to read them out. I kind of want to start off, David, if you don't mind, I'll throw my question out there. I see a lot of information these days that the general trend seems to be religion is on the wane, and the secular side, or at least the nuns are growing. And does that play any role in what you do, or are you thinking you're in large part, you and people like you, responsible for that trend? How do you feel about what's going on? I think you're muted. Can we unmute David?
What was the question again?
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I've noticed in recent times that the trends are definitely markedly, religion is on the wane, and
Yeah.
I don't want to say non-believers, because there's a lot of people that are just nuns who still believe but are not affiliated with religious organizations, but are growing. And I was just curious how you felt that was either impacting your work or how your work was impacting that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's certainly changing out there. And we see that the data shows, obviously, as we all know, we're well-read people, right? That the percentage of people that believe and identify as nuns are definitely increasing. There's no doubt. And the theistic religions are slowly dying, and more people are becoming secular. So I don't know if I'm responsible for it. I would just say I'm out there just with these signs to let, as I tell believers, they'll ask me, what are you doing out here? I say, well, actually, I'm just out here to inform and let non-believers know there are places you can go to kind of replace that if you're looking for community and so forth. So the science, the philosophy classes in college are doing the job. I talk to young people that go off to college. They were Christian, they go and they tell me, well, I went to the university. I learned how to think. I got away from my parents, and I have all these doubts now. So I talk to young people like that, the nuns, right? So my focus would be mainly to normalize this and to inform fellow non-believers or even atheists that even have never heard of these humanist communities or whatever. So there's a wide range of things we do out there.
Okay. So here's one of the questions that's popped up. What do you think of Unitarian Universalism?
Actually, I like it. In fact, my, who was it? One of my friends had a Universalist Unitarian minister on one of the humanist groups I'm affiliated with around the country on Zoom. And yeah, I mean, she was saying that she was a retired clergy, right, for them. 65 to 70% of people there are atheists, right? So this is a good indicator that people that go to there do like that community aspect of it. So I think they're doing great work. They tend to get into a little different, and that's okay. Diversity is good. They talk about spirituality a little bit. Some of them do more on a emotional level. To them, spirituality is not so much like God is spirit type spirits, but their emotions or feelings at all. So I like what they're doing. I think that they would be encompassed under the secular banner. There are a lot of different movements and philosophies under secularism, right? So yeah.
Okay. David, in your experience, how do churches grow when they are first founded in a city or a town with lots of other churches? How do they find those large crowds?
Well, all I can say is my experience back in the 70s and 80s. That's before the internet. We used to go door knocking, pass out literature, make phone calls, but we were always, at least I was, afraid to proselytize fellow Christians from other churches because there was divisiveness with different denominations, right? And there's an attempt for this ecumenicism, this Christian unity, and it doesn't always work. We know how they split and fight. But we kind of do the same thing, though. I hate to say it. We can have the same thing if we're not careful. So I just used to present Jesus. And it was pretty simple back then, just Jesus is Lord, new church starting, come here, whatever. Free food, potlucks after the service. A lot of people came for that.
Okay.
Trust me, they like potlucks.
Kind of along that same line, it says successful Christian churches seem to be entrepreneurial ventures now, unlike the old mainline churches. Do you have any comments on that?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, they tend to be a little more autonomous in some ways, not so denominational, independent. Yeah. If there's a such thing as Christian freethinkers, I know one. My youngest child is 34. We talk every Sunday. We discuss this stuff, and he's wonderful. He's obviously more liberal and progressive in his Christianity, but he thinks for himself. He's an entrepreneur. He doesn't like these hardcore, angry atheist Christians, and he thinks for himself. He doesn't like the fellow Christians telling him what God says to do. So yeah, there are the successful churches out there. Again, they don't talk about the hatred as much, hell as much. They talk about meeting human needs, just like I discussed. They're brilliant on that marketing, right? And that's how they grow, because that's what most people want. Yeah.
Have you ever considered trying to open a secular community center in Austin?
I don't know. Are you there, Alexis? Will? Yeah, I don't know if I could let the cat out of the bag. Yeah, I've thought about it. Definitely. We have, I better not say, well, we have 4 communities here in town, and they all have diversity. They're different. I have friends in all the groups. I've spoken for all of them. But yes, I would like something a little more like y'all here, but we'll let you know in the near future. So the answer is yes.
All right. Excellent. I have one more thing here. I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment from Abhishek. It says, who doesn't like potlucks? So
It's just a rhetorical thing.
Hey, may I add one more thing? I'm telling you folks, I can't tell you what to do. Just experience. The Seventh-day Adventists do it. I used to do it. You have a group, you have a building, instead of all going out and you're losing contact to eat some little restaurant, everybody brings food. If I do this in the future, that's what I'm going to do. Everybody brings a little dish. You come early, you put it in the little kitchen. Everybody's together. You have the communitarianism, the unity, the people together. People thrive on that, and you spend more time together, and that's what people need. And you know that at Oasis. You're the quintessential group for that, for the secular world. And just remember potlucks to get anything out of this.
okay. All right, well, thank you, David.
Save a lot of money too.
Yeah, I'll bet. So, okay. All right, so before we move on to our last song, we're going to post a link to donate and sign up for our weekly newsletter in the chat window. And just want to remind you that we are not yet meeting face-to-face, but hopefully it'll happen soon. But in the meantime, we still have to pay musicians and speakers and things like that. So if you are able to and would like to, please consider donating to us. And so with that, I'm going to see if I can get Lua to do one final song for us here. You're on, girl.
Right. She's back. Well, thanks again for having me, everyone. I'm going to play one of my favorite songs that came out this year by a musician named Laura Marling, who, if you don't know who she is, she's absolutely phenomenal. This album got nominated for like Album of the Year. It was phenomenal. But so I thought I would pay tribute to that. And again, I'm Louise, and thank you guys for having me on. And maybe I'll see you again soon. Though they to see if the path they set fails. Though they may want you to take off your clothes, whatever they think the action exposed. With your clothes on the floor, taking advice from some old balding bore, you ask yourself, well, did I want this at all? You remember what I'd said, the book I left by her bed, the words that some survivor has read. Lately I've been thinking about our daughter growing old. Well, and all of the bull that she might be told. Well, there's blood on the floor. Well, maybe now you believe her for sure. She remembers what I'd said, the book I left by her bed, the words that some survivor has read. Though they may take you for all you had left, won't be forgotten for what you have not done yet. And you asked for a wish from us, and now you mourn a childless loss. Innocence gone, but it's not forgot. You'll find your way through it somehow. Yeah, you'll find your way through it somehow. You remember what I'd said, that book I left by her bed, the words that we've all lived again. Yeah, so definitely check out Laura Marling. She's awesome.
Thank you. Could you give us the name of the musician you mentioned right before your song again?
Laura Marling. She's from England. Laura Marling.
Okay.
Yeah, that's from an album called Song for Our Daughter. That's actually the song for Our Daughter from the album Song for Our Daughter. So she's awesome.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Just want to remind you tonight I think we have another Corona conversation with Richard and Will and a bunch of us. And I'll just remind you to keep a lookout for our emails and Facebook posts and meetup things so that we can keep you posted on what's going on with there. And with that, I think we're ready to wrap it up. So you all have a good week and we'll see you next week.